the Italian Football Podcast.
So there's only one place to start. Club Brugge versus Atalanta, which Club Brugge won 2-1, but there's only one incident really worth talking about, and that is the scandal deep into injury time. The scores are 1-1, and Club Brugge get given a penalty after Hien grazes. Can we call it grazes at best? The striker's nose with his arm while the ball was under his control, while the two players are going for the ball and Hien is fending off Nilsson, the giant striker. The striker goes down. Incredibly, the referee gives a penalty to Club Brugge, who score and win 2-1. This is one of the worst refereeing decisions. I would say maybe it's the worst refereeing decision in the VAR era in the Champions League that I've seen. Like for a penalty, for the importance of the penalty decision as well. The assistant referee, who is right there, like meters away, with a perfect view of the incident, doesn't give the penalty. The referee, who's way behind play and in a bad position and is blinded, can't even see the incident clearly, gives the penalty. The VAR checks it. The VAR team in the booth checks it, and somehow they uphold the incident. And that's a separate discussion, the VAR, which we'll come to. But first of all, I just want to focus on the first decision and the referee. And for me, I really, really want to believe. I mean, Charles de Ketelaere said at the end of the game, and he's a Club Brugge through and through, by the way, so he's being nice. He said 100 referees, if you asked 100 referees if this was a penalty, 100 people if this was a penalty, 100 would say it's not a penalty. And I really, really, Nima, want to believe that this is just incompetence. And I know maybe this is the Italian way of thinking, of crying conspiracy, but I just cannot, I'm sorry, maybe it's just me, but I just cannot believe that this is incompetence. I can't believe a referee would give this decision. It just seems impossible to me that this can be incompetence. When I look into the referee's history, how he's viewed in Turkey, the big scandal in Turkey when a club official came onto the pitch and punched him, and how shady he's considered in Turkey. And when I just look at this incident and think, can this just be a mistake? Can this just be a terrible, terrible mistake? And I look at the incident and I think, how can this it's just not possible that a referee can make a mistake like this. I want to believe it's incompetency, but how can you give a penalty like this?
I think we should never underestimate the incompetence of anyone. Or the famous George Carlin quote, think of how stupid the average person is. Now remember, half of them are dumber than that. So I absolutely think this is incompetency, and I'm not surprised by it. I think incompetency is a bottomless pit, unfortunately. There's no ground floor. My reaction to this was I still can't believe it. I looked at it and I didn't understand. And I was a bit shocked in the sense that I didn't understand what was going on. Like that was my reaction. I genuinely didn't understand. I was sitting there going, huh? Like I'm still a bit, huh? Like I don't understand how you give, like the fact that Isakian's arm is up there, hand is up there. There's no doubt about that. We can see that, and it has no business being there. You should be pushing away the player, not. That's fine. But for that to cross over a threshold into a penalty is just. I'm a little bit stunned. I really don't know what to say. I don't understand what I've watched, and I've watched it about 100 times since then. I don't get it. I really don't get it. First, I thought maybe I was speculating, and so I talked to a couple of referees, but mainly one as a FIFA referee, and told me, I asked lots of questions because I was like, maybe they didn't have enough angles. Maybe the angle, because we didn't see it from the front, did we? We saw it from the back, and the response I got was that no, a UEFA competition, a requirement has to have 36 cameras, one fixed on the goal line on both sides. They definitely have the footage. Sometimes they don't show it on TV. which is okay, great. So we know that the VAR at least had it. But then brings me to another question, which I still don't understand, is why don't they share those images with the people watching? That would just make it more understandable, because from the angle that we're all seeing, it's not even a foul. It's not that it's not a foul. If anything, it should be a free kick for Atalanta for simulation. Nilsson should be booked for simulation based on the images I see. That's how much of an egregious decision it is, and I don't understand it. I genuinely don't get it. Then when it comes to the VAR, we don't know if they recommended an on-field review and the referee said he didn't want to, because the referee has that power. But they did check it. They absolutely check it. Whether or not they upheld it or not, I'm waiting for UEFA to release some sort of statement as to what the procedure was here, what actually happened, because according to, as again, people I've spoken to, that is clear and obvious error. Because even if the hand hit his face, is it enough to warrant a foul? Is it enough to warrant a penalty? And the response has been overwhelmingly, hell no. It's not enough. And
initially, with regards to the VAR, initially we were kind of told, and this is kind of what we thought before you spoke to your FIFA referee, who then said that wasn't true in this incident, which was, and this is where the VAR system is clearly flawed, is that we understood it, and this has definitely been the case for many incidents, is that VAR couldn't intervene because they can only intervene where there's a clear and obvious error. And the definition of clear and obvious error in most cases like this is that if there is some contact, no matter how minimal that contact is, the VAR procedure is that it cannot be overturned. It can only be overturned if on review they see that there was no contact at all. So that means that Hien could have gone out into his wife's cleaning cupboard, got a feather duster, and literally tickled Nilsson with the feather duster on any part of his body, and the VAR team can't overturn that because
no, they can't. They absolutely can't.
Because there's no contact. That's what we understood. Then you spoke to the and I think that's been a kind of a myth for a number of years, because I remember we've explained certain incidences on this show and said, well, the procedure is, even though but you've spoken to the referee and says that's not true. Is that right?
Yeah, basically saying that they leave themselves lots of wiggle room, in the sense that they want, for it to fall under the remit of clear and obvious error, there has to be, you look at the whole situation, and is it enough on the contact? Like, does the contact warrant a foul? And if it doesn't, then it can fall with that. That's the way I've understood it now.
Yeah.
Because
so that makes it even more damning then, because that means it's not just the referee that's.
We don't know that, because again, we don't have the VAR communication. They could have recommended an on-field review, and the referee has the right to say, I don't know, I'm happy with my decision.
Yeah.
So we don't know that, but for me,
the Keteles said the referee was extremely arrogant. They asked him what's the penalty for. He wouldn't even answer them. So that's what we know from what the Atalanta players have said of the incident. But for me, there needs to be a proper investigation. There needs to be an investigation into this. There needs to be full transparency. UEFA needs to explain what happened. There needs to be a public.
They will. There
needs to be a public apology from UEFA. Not that it will do much now. I mean, Atalanta have lost the game, and it could cost them qualification. But there needs to be a public apology, and this referee, Halil Umut Meler, this Turkish referee, needs to be banned from. He should never referee again. I mean, I would even go further. I would, I'd ban him from football altogether. But he shouldn't be allowed to referee a Champions League game ever again. Whether it's incompetency, as you say it is, or whether there's something darker behind it, he shouldn't be allowed to referee again. Because either way, you can't have referees that make these decisions like this. This is not acceptable at all at any level. This isn't acceptable at Sunday League level, let alone at Champions League, in the playoffs, in injury time, in a game which could decide, in a moment that could decide qualification. You cannot make decisions like this. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. And I don't want to go into the whole anti-Italian discrimination thing, but The list is endless in recent years of these kind of shocking
No,
decisions.
I've never. No, this
But this
level.
takes the biscuit. But I mean, this is on a week where, and I know we'll come on to Juventus PSV. This is in a week where PSV scored a goal, which was a handball. There was a handball in the build up to the PSV goals. We've had two goals that have been scored this week, which shouldn't have been goals. I know we'll come on to that because again, you spoke to your referee about the PSV goals. We'll come on to that after. I don't want to cloud this discussion where we focus on Atalanta, but it just seems to be that this happens all the time, and this referee, he reminded me the way that he made that decision and the way that he stood by it and the arrogance and the way that he brushed off the complaints of the Atalanta players, and I don't know how many of them he booked for complaining after the penalty. He reminded me of Byron Moreno. That kind of, he had those menacing eyes of
Menacing
yeah.
eyes.
He had those menacing eyes, and that demeanor of someone that was someone that was just I've effed you and don't even try and question me. Like that was. I mean, it was just the arrogance, but I mean it's just not acceptable, and Atalanta might go out because of this now. It's just not fair. And other than that, I mean, it just robbed the fans. I mean, I'll be honest with you, this was the early game last night. I didn't even feel like watching the Milan game after that. Obviously, I had to watch it because, we're doing this show. And I didn't feel like it. I was watching that Milan game just like a zombie. And my overall feeling, I know I had a lot of people respond to me last night were saying the same thing. A lot of people were just like, what's the point? Like, that's how I felt. I just felt so deflated. And I just thought, what is the point of even watching football when you see a decision like this? It's just, this should not happen in 2025. This is the kind of incident that maybe you expected, far in the past when there's no VAR, and the VAR is supposed to eliminate these kinds of incidents. The referee can make a mistake. The referee can be bought, but if the referee's bought and you've got a VAR team, well, they need to buy the VAR team as well because they're going to overrule.
And they have to destroy the images as well. Look,
Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I think I just want to make a point before we move on. I just do want to make a point about the VAR system in general because it has been, this week there's been a lot on it. But I do feel like the VAR system is flawed. I know we discussed this after the Tomori incident last week. The VAR system is definitely flawed. This clear and obvious, although I know we're not certain if that was the case here with this one, but this clear and obvious. I'm sorry, but there needs to be, the review by the VAR team needs to be simple. Is it a penalty or not, or is it not a penalty? When it's like this, you can't go down to technicalities as a reason for not then overturning the decision. This is, like De Ketelaere said, you ask 100 people and the 100 people will tell you this is not a penalty. It's that much of a joke. You can't then decide not to overturn it because either it doesn't, because there's contact, and that you can't.
Or if the referee,
or if the referee arbitrarily on his own decides to say no, I'm not overturning it. That system is flawed because the error remains. That's number one, and number two is a point that Fabio Capello made a couple of days ago, where he said that ex-players should be in the VAR booth. Now, I don't know whether that's possible. I don't know whether the ex-players will want to do it.
They are part of IFAB already, ex-players.
Well, I don't know whether they'd want to do it because they're already, well off. They don't need to work anymore. I don't know whether they want to stress themselves to work in VAR unless they pay them well. I mean, I think that referees and officials should be paid better. There's enough money in football.
Definitely.
There's so much money in football that you pay them better. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Maybe they need to be paid better. Maybe these people are not paid as well, so that the recruitment. I don't know, but what point I want to make is
Premier League referees are paid quite a bit, and I wouldn't hire them. I'd rather hire monkeys than most of them, to be honest with you.
Well, listen, the point I want to make is this, Nima, that when a ref, and I'm not saying, I mean, I don't know, but when a referee or an assistant or someone in the VAR booth has never played football before, you don't understand certain dynamics in football, why certain things happen, why certain natural movements happen. Like the Hien incident, for example. okay, you can maybe argue that
It shouldn't have his hand
his
there.
hand was a little bit higher than it
Yeah.
should be. But if you've played football, you understand that in that kind of scenario, you naturally, when you're ahead of the other player and you're fending him off, you naturally will put your arm across. Now, occasionally that arm might come a little bit higher. Depends on the height of the player. Okay, this guy was a giant. It shouldn't be that high.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
but that's a natural movement. It's the same as I think I made an argument a few weeks ago about a penalty that Roma got against. I can't remember who it was.
Udinese, I think
Yeah,
it
Udinese,
was.
where there's two players tussling for the
Yeah,
ball, and that is a natural movement that he did. He got given a penalty, and I
yeah,
think legally, you explained that it probably,
yeah.
based on the law, it probably was a
His arm
penalty.
was.
But
Yeah.
again, so I mean, that's down to the law. But I'm just saying that
No, I get.
when you've played football, it doesn't necessarily have to be professional, or even necessarily semi-professional. When you've played football at a reasonable level and regularly, you understand that these are certain movements. If you've never played football again, which a lot of referees haven't at all, then you don't understand why
But it's
certain.
not really down to that. It's also what they're told. Like, this is the thing. If you download IFAB apps and you read the laws of the game, that's one thing. Then people who train referees get their instructions from IFAB and tell them, this is how we want you to interpret this law,
I
and
understand that.
teach
I
that
agree.
to the referees, and they have to follow that.
Of course, they follow the laws. They
But
know the
no,
laws.
I'm just saying that, like, a lot of that is also down to interpretation and
That's what
communication.
I'm saying.
And
The
I think,
interpretation, Nima, comes from playing the game. You can't
yeah,
interpret
yeah,
an
but
incident.
IFAB's interpretation is because is from people who are former players, former coaches. Like, it's not
IFAB,
just,
yes, but the referee himself or the assistants, the
yeah,
VAR team have to then
it's
interpret. It's
communication
never,
for me. I think it's
incidents are never black and
communication.
white. There's always going to
Yeah,
be a little bit of interpretation,
of course.
as well. And if you've never played the game, you can't understand why these things happen. You can't just train someone to understand it. You can't. You have to have played the game. When you've repetitively had these incidents during matches you play, you will understand why things happen because you'll naturally do them. Without even thinking, you'll do certain things, and then occasionally you might be unlucky to handle a ball because you've put your arm across. Like for example, like the Gatti one. My incident.
Mm.
My opinion on penalties. I think it's. I think penalties should be totally taken out of the game. I think that and then that's something that
No,
Kalina spoke about. He said what I've been saying, which is the reward for penalties are way too high. You're getting penalties given for incidents where there's not even a chance to score, like this one last night. And in the end, you can see the goal because it's an 80% chance of scoring a penalty. So Club
I
Brugge had an 80. I mean, my opinion probably goes too far compared to most, but I would get rid of penalties full stop.
no.
I would get rid of penalties full stop. I also think you get rid of penalties, then you remove the chance of teams being cheated in this way as
Well,
well.
I think if you get rid of penalties, you increase it, because then you essentially you can do whatever you want in the penalty area and nothing
Well,
happens.
you'd have to, yeah, okay, but you would need to find a replacement for
I
penalties.
still think there should be a smaller penalty area. I think the penalty box is too big. Many times penalties are given at the very edge where there's like literally no chance of scoring. I believe in like fouls inside like a smaller penalty area, if that makes sense. I think that's something I would like to see, which is, like the what do you call it? The area area piccola, they call it in the Italian. I don't know what it's called in
Yeah,
English. Um,
yeah.
but something like that, but a little bit bigger.
They need to change something, and also I just want to, because I thought Gasparini's quotes after the game were brilliant, where he basically, and again this comes down to the laws of the game and also interpretation. Talking about like these penalties that get given with handballs all the time, which we've seen a lot in the last few days. That footballers now, he says footballers now have to be penguins. Which I thought was brilliant. I've been waiting for somebody to come up. I've been waiting for somebody to come up with a term to describe what footballers have to be.
I
And we,
got a
and we always
message.
say footballers have to cut their hands off. Well, no, penguins is
That's brilliant. A
brilliant.
friend of mine texted me after that and said, "I can't wait to hear Gasparini's thoughts after this," and he duly delivered.
It was brilliant.
Penguins
But
is
the reason
brilliant.
why he called them penguins is, well, I'll read out his quote. He says, "The trouble now is we all have to run around like penguins with our arms glued to the sides of our body, jump like penguins too," which is
He
brilliant,
delivered.
and
He
he's
delivered.
absolutely true because again, it comes down to not understanding the natural movements in football. Not understanding natural movements. Like For me, I wouldn't give any. You know me, I'm a bit extreme. I wouldn't give any penalties for all these controversies on handballs, penalties in the last week. I wouldn't give any of them. I mean, I maybe take things too far, but he's right. You have to be penguins. You know, you
Mm.
jump up for a hand for jump up for something in the penalty area, and you're defending. You have to put your hands by your side. Well, if you jump hand by your side, you're not going to be able to leap very high because you need your arms to jump. It's ridiculous. And I think Gasperini's absolutely right. Football is now, I quote, football is now going in a direction that has nothing whatsoever to do with the sport.
Mm.
I know, honestly, no longer even understand the rules now. And I certainly don't like it.
No, it's. I don't think this is an understanding of the rules. I think this is just an egregious decision. I think it was.
In
It's
this
just
case,
wrong.
yes, but I'm
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
generally.
yeah, no, but this is just. This is one of the biggest refereeing mistakes and howlers I've ever seen, and I don't understand it, and I will never understand it, and I don't think anyone does. It just makes no sense, and for it to be a foul, there has to be more on it. It's that simple. Like that. That's the crux of it. That's not the contact. I mean, they keep talking about how we don't want to give, cheap penalties. We don't want to give every contact doesn't warrant a foul. They keep telling us all these things, and then we see a penalty like that. It makes a mockery of everything because it's stupid. And the reason the VAR was put in there is to prevent from these things going on, and to eliminate these mistakes. And why that failed, that's something that UEFA have to explain. Did the VAR recommend an on-field review? And if they did, then this referee should not be allowed to referee at this level again, because just like in the Premier League, remember when I think it was Liverpool who the VAR told the referee that, I can't remember exactly what it was, that it was the goal was good, but he didn't give it, and the game continued, and the
There was a
communication,
misunderstanding that
yeah, misunderstand,
the VAR meant to say it's good, as in it's good to do
yeah,
a review, or
yeah,
it's good to disallow it,
yeah,
and he thought he meant the goal is good, or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. And then what
mm,
happened is that referee was let go. As harsh
yeah,
as that sounds, he was let
mm,
go because they published the communication, and then they let the referee go, which I think is the right decision. Certain thing, it's about credibility. If you have no credibility, then you can't continue in that position. And that's all it is here. I think if you, after a decision like this, you have zero credibility to continue as a referee, I think. And I know it sounds harsh, but that's the nature of it. That's why we want the best people to be referees. They can make mistakes, but this level of mistake is just not acceptable. It really isn't. And I think I still am a little bit shocked. I still can't believe what I saw yesterday. I still don't understand how that decision was allowed to stand. I can understand him giving it, but I don't understand why the VAR and him did not cooperate to remove it. That I don't understand, and I will probably never will understand, because it's in a million years that's not a penalty. That's not a foul. It's just not.
yeah. I can't understand either. And like I said at the start, I want to believe in competency, but I just don't believe you can be even incompetent.
Ooh, I think you can.
Even as George Carlin said, among all the
Yeah,
stupid people in the world, I still can't believe that people are that stupid.
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, just I mean, the rest of the game almost pales into insignificance. But
Well, I do want to say,
Atalanta didn't play well.
I was
Let's
going
be
to
honest.
say,
Yeah.
I think Brugge played really well, and they kind of beat them, Atalanta, at their own game a little bit, and that really disrupted Atalanta. So nothing. I don't want to take anything away from Club Brugge, because I thought they played really well, and they shocked Atalanta tactically, which is very rarely something you see teams do, play against them like that. But I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's like they don't have a chance. They're at home now, and I think Atalanta will have learnt from this, and I think they will come into this game completely fired up. And I don't, and I think the referee will be. I think they will be very cognizant of the fact of what happened, and I don't think that anything dramatic will happen in this game now. I think, in the sense that I don't expect any shocking refereeing decisions to be made in the return leg. because this was
Well, the
this is what everyone is talking about. This is literally what everyone is talking about.
Yeah. Well, the damage is done now. We just have to hope that Atalanta can turn it around.
I think they will. Are Atalanta good enough to beat Club Brugge at home with a 2-goal advantage? Yes.
They
Absolutely.
are. Just a little bit worried about the physical shape of Atalanta, the injuries as well. I don't know whether the flu that kind of went through the team played a role, but they looked very flat. They didn't look like they ever had any energy or intensity. And the number of injuries they've got, especially in defence, the defence didn't look good. Posh was really poor, who they brought in from January, really, really poor. And they didn't really create that much either. They did have Summers had a big chance. They were better. Quadrado was really good. He was probably the only positive. When Quadrado came on, he gave them a boost. He went on a number of really great dribbles. Quadrado is probably the only player that really performed well in this game. And Summers missed a big chance to at 1-1. But other than that, they didn't really create much at all in this game. Great header by Pasalic, so I'll give him credit for his goal. That was great. But yeah, Club Brugge are a tricky team. I mean, they've got a good record. They've beaten Atalanta now, obviously amid scandal, but they beat Aston Villa. They drew with Juventus. They were winning at City. Man City 1-0 at half time and played well in that game before losing. So yeah, not going to be easy for Atalanta.
No,
So
it's not going to
I
be
really
easy.
hope. Yeah, I mean, it would just be such an injustice if they go out because of that. Just not fair at all.
Yeah, but they have to shake this off now. They have to show that they are a team that knows how to win in Europe and that has experience from the Champions League. You can lose a game like this, that's fine, but you have to bounce back and you have to show mental strength. And I expect Gasperini to do that. He will have fired up players. I just need him to tactically study what went wrong and adjust, and then systematically try to go after Club Brugge, study them properly. Never mind the Serie A right now. Focus on this. You have to get through. It's that simple.